At the edge of the world, where Antarctica becomes nothing but white and sky, a small station stands on steel legs above the ice. For months the wind speaks, the metal answers, and silence fills everything else. Three people live inside that silence. They came to measure the world, to observe, to endure. They did not expect the silence to notice them, as if something that had been sleeping beneath the ice had finally opened its eyes. The storm ended as suddenly as it had begun. It didn't fade, it didn't weaken, it didn't dissolve into the horizon. It simply stopped. As if somewhere high above, an invisible switch had been flipped. An hour earlier, the station had been shaking like a tin box in a fist. The wind howled against the stilts. Metal groaned under pressure, and for 3 days there had been no sky, no horizon, only white chaos. And now, outside the window hung an empty whiteness. Not silence, a pause. Antarctica knows how to make pauses so deep you can hear your own heartbeat. Snow lay smooth along the windward side, almost polished, as if the blizzard had never happened, as if a massive hand had smoothed the surface of the continent. North 17 stood on steel stilts, raised above the snow. 3 living modules, a laboratory section, a power unit with twin diesel generators, and the radio tower rising into the pale sky like the only vertical line in a world of white. We built the station to listen, to measure electromagnetic anomalies, to study fluctuations in the ionosphere, to track strange narrowband signal satellites occasionally reported. We came here to listen. We did not expect something to answer. Communication with the mainland had died on the 3rd day of the storm. At first, the dispatcher's voice broke through in fragments, like someone speaking through wet fabric. Then the noise thickened. Then even that disappeared. Only static remained. We switched to power-saving mode, shut down non-essential systems, moved into a single living module, counted fuel, counted food. The diesel generator became the station's heartbeat. We pretended we were in control. I was in the radio room, headphones pressed tight to my ear, cold paper, dust, machine oil, and that metallic air you only smell when equipment runs near its limits. The communications logbook lay open on the metal desk. Ink thickened in the pen from the cold. I had to warm it between my palms. Alex walked past in the corridor. Heavy, measured steps. He always walked like he was testing the strength of the floor. The door opened. "Anything, Victor?" "Just myself," he snorted softly. "We'll need to clear the antenna in the morning. Ice on the guy wires, like bones." He left. The station quieted again. Not home quiet. Station quiet. Ventilation humming steadily. Occasional metallic clicks in the heating pipes. The unsettling feeling that the building itself was listening. On the wall hung a photograph of our station chief, James Harrison, fur-lined cap, eyes narrowed against sunlight. Half smile of a man who believed in order. No one had taken the photo down. Harrison had died a week ago. We said a week so we wouldn't count in hours. He had walked out toward the meteorological platform and didn't make it back. His radio worked. His gear was intact. The wind that day had been mild. He simply walked and didn't return. The hardest part wasn't carrying the body. The hardest part was closing the cold storage door. The lock clicked, and the station became one room smaller. I turned the tuning dial by a millimeter. The indicator needle twitched. At first, I thought it was nothing. The radio plays tricks sometimes. You hear words and noise if you listen long enough. I pressed the headphones tighter. The static shifted, like curtains parting, and on a clear slice of frequency, a voice said, "Polar Station North, acknowledge." Dry, even, as if reading from a page, and familiar enough to hurt. I slowly removed the headphones, looked at the photograph. Harrison was still smiling. Confirm reception, the voice continued. Scheduled confirmations at 9 in the morning and 9 in the evening. Regulations mandatory. Footsteps in the corridor. Anna and Alex burst into the room. You hear that? Anna whispered. I nodded. The voice repeated itself. No emotion, no urgency. As if we were a line item in a report. Alex leaned toward the equipment. Recording, he muttered. A relay, a tape loop. And then the voice said, Mechanic Alex Fisher, acknowledge. The room shrank. Meteorologist Anna Cruz, acknowledge. Anna went pale. Harrison only used full names when he wanted attention. The clock read 8:59 in the morning, 9 o'clock. Alex grabbed the microphone. North confirms reception. Identify yourself. A second of silence, then, confirmed, acknowledgement registered, next confirmation at 9 in the evening, end transmission. Static returned, but something had changed. The air in the radio room felt softer. I glanced at the thermometer. The column had risen by 1 mark. Anna saw it too. You saw that? I nodded. Alex said nothing. He didn't believe in coincidence, but he believed in instruments. And the instruments said the temperature had risen. At 9 in the evening, we were ready. No one joked. The clock turned. The static cleared by itself. Polar Station North, confirm reception. We answered. Confirmed, regulation observed. And again, the temperature rose, not dramatically, but enough to feel. The station released its grip on the cold after we responded. That night, I woke to someone saying my name. Victor. I sat up. The voice came from the radio room. 3:12 in the morning. Not 9 in the morning. Not 9 in the evening. I went inside. The tape recorder was spinning. In the headphones, confirm reception. I didn't answer. The air sharpened. Glass thin. Frost crept along the window edges. Confirm reception. I still didn't answer. And the station began to cool. Not like a malfunction. Like a reaction. In the morning, Alex insisted it was mechanical. The diesel under strain. Fatigue, imagination. But at 9 o'clock, the voice said, deviation recorded, night confirmation absent. There was something new in its tone. Not anger, control. Reason? It asked. Regulations specify 2 confirmations daily, Alex replied. Silence. Deviation recorded. Correct. The temperature began to drop, quickly, as if the station itself had taken offense. We tried to shut down the radio room. In the power unit, Alex flipped the breaker. Somewhere deep inside the station, something thudded. Ventilation stopped for 1 full second. When we returned, the radio was still powered, and in my logbook, a new line had appeared, written in pencil. We did not keep pencils in the radio room. Deviation. Attempted communication shutdown. Notice, Anna said quietly. The station is writing. There were 3 of us, and all 3 of us had been present. At 9 in the evening, the voice added something new. Prepare exterior inspection. 1 person. Assigned, Anna Cruz. The temperature dropped another mark. Anna looked at us. It wants 1 person, she said. If you go, it will be worse. If 2 go, worse. It already chose. Behind the wall, something clicked softly, as if the station had heard. At 9 in the evening, the voice came without delay. The static didn't thin. It didn't clear gradually. It simply appeared, as if it had always been there. Polar Station, North 17. Confirm reception. Victor held the microphone steady. Too steady. He was always like that. Soft voice, careful movements. But inside, something was tightening like a spring pulled too far. North confirms reception, he said calmly. A pause. Prepare exterior inspection. 1 person. Perimeter check. Assigned, meteorologist Anna Cruz. Execution time, 10:30 tonight. Confirm. Silence filled the radio room. Not empty silence. Dense. Anna slowly placed the thermos on the table. Her fingers had gone pale. Anna wasn't fragile. She was the most stable of the three of them. Numbers calmed her. Data made sense. Weather followed laws. But this wasn't weather. Why? Alex asked. He didn't raise his voice, but steel entered it. Alex reacted through action. If something broke, fix it. If something threatened, shut it down. If something frightened him, argue with it. For deviation correction, the voice replied. No explanation, no emotion. Anna inhaled slowly. He's not asking, she said quietly. He's requiring. Victor felt the cold creeping along the floor. The glass in the door turned pale from the inside. Alex stepped forward. North. Assigned personnel cannot proceed alone. Conditions unstable. Escort required. His tone was professional, controlled, but his knuckles were white against the edge of the desk. The pause that followed was worse than any answer. It felt as if the station itself was deciding. Deviation, the voice said at last. Correct. The lights flickered. The ventilation dropped to a lower tone. The thermometer needle began to fall. Anna closed her eyes for a brief second. All right, she said, calm. Not like someone walking into darkness, more like a surgeon before an operation. I'll go. Alex turned sharply toward her. You are not going alone. The words came out almost like a hiss. Fear in him always turned into anger. Anna looked at him steadily. If you go, it will be worse. If two of us go, worse. It already chose. She said it very quietly, and there was no human meaning in that word. Preparation took 10 minutes. Every movement precise. Parka, insulated boots, goggles, safety line, radio. Victor checked the channel 3 times. He didn't like darkness. He preferred signals, measured things, predictable numbers. Keep the channel open at all times, he said. His voice trembled slightly, but he steadied it. Anna nodded. If anything happens, don't argue with it, she added softly. Alex clenched his jaw. Don't talk to it out there. I'm not planning to, but her eyes betrayed uncertainty. At 10:30 that night, the airlock opened. Metal scraped. White air rushed inside. The cold was dense, dry, like glass. Anna stepped out. The wind had nearly stopped. That was worse than the storm. The silence was too even. Outside, she said into the radio. Her voice was steady. The red marker poles stretched into the white distance. Her headlamp cut a narrow tunnel of light. After a few minutes, I've reached the 3rd marker. Something strange. Alex leaned toward the speaker instantly. What exactly? Anna didn't answer right away. She lowered her gaze. The snow in front of her wasn't disturbed. It was arranged. Not footprints, not drift patterns. As if a narrow thread of heat had traced the surface. The lines moved away from the station. Perfectly straight. Too straight for wind. That's not tracks, she said quietly. It's like markings. She stepped closer, and then she saw it. The snow wasn't melted. It was altered. The crystals were larger, restructured. Anna crouched, removed her glove for a second. Reckless, unnecessary, but she needed to feel it. She touched the surface. The snow was warm, not hot, not frozen. Warm. Alex, her voice dropped. It's warmer here. Inside the station, Victor froze. That's impossible. I know. The radio clicked softly. Not static, not interference. A clean connection. And the voice sounded closer than ever before. Continue inspection. Anna didn't flinch. She watched the lines. They were becoming clearer. Not moving, not spreading, sharpening, as if the snow itself was aligning along a hidden design. Lines intersected, converged, formed structure. And suddenly she understood. It's not numbers, she whispered. It's a frequency. Victor straightened abruptly. Which one? She swept the beam of her headlamp across the pattern. Spacing, intervals, rhythm. 14, 20 megahertz. The radio room felt smaller. That was their working frequency. And then the air around Anna changed. Not wind, not sound. A sensation, like the charge before lightning. Her skin tingled. She removed her glove again, this time deliberately, raised her bare hand, and felt it. Not touch, not pressure. A field, weak, oscillating, barely holding, as if the radio wave itself had gained weight. She extended her hand forward slowly. Her breathing quickened. It's here, she whispered. Who? Alex demanded. Anna closed her eyes, just for a moment, allowed herself to sense it. There was no body, no shape, only tension. Energy held together by effort, pulsing, fading. And then she realized something else. The lines in the snow were not leading away from the station. They were converging toward it, as if something was trying to connect. It's not leaving, she said softly. It's reaching toward us. A new sound came through the radio. Not words. A low frequency, barely audible, like the hum of a transformer. Her palm grew slightly warmer. The snow beneath it shifted, crystals stretching, reforming, building a new pattern. And suddenly she felt it. Not a thought, not a voice, an emotion, loneliness. Not human, ancient, as if something had waited a very long time and had finally found energy again. It was freezing, Anna whispered. The wind rose suddenly, sharp, as if the station had taken a breath. Anna, return immediately! Alex's voice cracked. She lowered her hand. The field vanished. The lines blurred. The snow became ordinary again. Inside the station, the temperature began to rise. Deviation corrected, the voice said, but now something was different. Not command, almost relief. Anna turned back toward the station. The windows glowed warmer than before, and she understood. This wasn't control, it was contact. And at that moment the voice spoke again, not sharply, not loudly. It seemed to move through the walls. Accident, ancient fall, loss of energy, long dormancy. The words were simple, but behind them stood an image. It did not appear before our eyes. It assembled inside us. We saw it at the same time, not with vision, with understanding. Millions of years ago, something entered the atmosphere. Not a ship, not a machine. A concentration of energy contained within a crystalline structure. It did not burn. It did not explode. It simply lost power. Upon impact, its source fractured. The structure remained. The energy dispersed. It froze, dissolved into the planet's electromagnetic background, and waited for an unimaginable length of time until we built the station, until we turned on the transmitters, until we began sending powerful pulses into the air. We woke it. A cold sensation moved along my spine. Why Harrison's voice? I asked aloud. My voice sounded rough, too personal. The answer did not come through the speaker. The metal walls of the radio room vibrated faintly, as if the station itself responded. Accessible template, strong imprint, last stable signal. Anna stood in the snow, motionless, her breath visible in the beam of her headlamp. He died near it, she said quietly. Not as a conclusion, as realization. We understood. Harrison had walked in exactly that direction. He had been closest to the point of impact. His brain, his neural impulses, his voice patterns, his frequency signatures, became the first human template the entity could read. It was not malicious. It simply used the most stable pattern available. Like a child repeating the first word it hears. The temperature inside the station stopped falling, but the air felt thinner, as if we were standing higher than we should. Alex stepped closer to the microphone. He stood straight, jaw tight. What do you want? He asked. He did not shout, but there was strain in his voice, the strain of someone who solves problems by confronting them. A pause. Resonance. The voice spoke. Alex frowned. With what? With source. New source possible. The idea assembled itself in my mind, like a diagram forming. It doesn't need diesel, I said slowly. Not heat. It needs a stable frequency. Anna nodded slowly. It's drawing warmth to convert it into oscillation. She spoke calmly, but her eyes were wide. She could feel it. We built the station to listen, but if we turned the antenna into a transmitter, if we tuned it to 1,420 megahertz and sent a continuous modulated carrier signal, we could give it a new energy source. Alex turned sharply toward me. That will drain our reserves. He spoke quickly, almost harshly. If we don't, we freeze anyway, Anna replied, calmly, no pressure, just fact. The snow around her began to glow faintly, not bright, like localized aurora beneath the surface, soft blues and greens flowing under the ice. I can feel it, she said quietly. It doesn't want to harm us. It's afraid of losing energy again. From the speaker came, no threat, no harm, no destruction. And for the first time, there was no command in the voice, only something like a request. Alex exhaled slowly, his shoulders lowered slightly. All right, he said quietly. Suppose we try. What exactly do we do? A stable carrier signal, I said. No interruptions, no scheduled confirmations. Continuously, he asked, staring at me, until synchronization completes. The word synchronization formed in my mind before I spoke it, and the voice confirmed, synchronization possible. We began working. Alex reconfigured the transmitter with fast, precise movements. In moments like that, he was in his element. Fear transformed into focus. I entered the frequency parameters. My fingers trembled, but I kept them steady. Anna remained near the contact point, radio open. She was no longer afraid. She was listening. 60% readiness, Alex said. The station no longer felt hostile. It felt expectant. When the carrier signal went live, nothing happened at first. Silence. Then the temperature needle stopped falling. Then it began to rise. Not sharply, gradually, as if someone was gently returning warmth to the walls. Anna inhaled sharply. It's glowing. The snow around the crystalline node began to evaporate, but not from heat, from energy. The glow intensified. Synchronization, the voice said, and then, complete. At that moment, the radio room became quiet, not because sound disappeared, but because tension did. The crystal beneath the snow dissolved. Not physically, it simply ceased to be separate. The signal in the air widened, cleaner, stable. Source restored, the voice said. It no longer sounded like Harrison. It sounded neutral, balanced. Gratitude. And for the first time since the storm began, the station felt truly warm. Not mechanically, truly. We stood in silence. Outside, Anna slowly turned toward the station. All stable, she said softly. Alex watched her through the window. Come back, he said. There was no anger left in his voice, only exhaustion and relief. She walked back slowly, as if afraid to disturb the balance. When the airlock closed, the corridor temperature was above normal. The diesel generator ran smoothly. Fuel consumption had decreased. We looked at each other, and for the first time in a week, none of us were thinking about the cold. But it wasn't over, because later that night we realized something. It hadn't left. It had simply become part of the signal. That night, no one slept. Not because we were afraid, but because the station had changed. It no longer held us in its cold mechanical grip. It no longer felt like something we were fighting to survive inside. It was breathing with us. The temperature in the living module remained steadily above projected levels. The warmth was even. stable, almost natural. Alex checked the instruments 3 times, methodically, calmly, like a man searching for the flaw that had to be there. The readings were precise. The diesel generator ran quieter. Load had dropped by nearly 10%. "That's impossible," he said at last. There was no anger in his voice now, only disbelief. In the radio room, the airwaves were no longer empty. On 1,420 megahertz, a faint background had appeared. Steady, not noise, not interference, more like presence, like distant breathing. I sat at the console. The headphones lay on the desk. For the first time since the storm began, I wasn't waiting for an order. Anna brought tea. She moved carefully, as if afraid to disturb something fragile. The 3 of us sat together, outside in absolute white stillness. Antarctica itself seemed to be listening. "Is it feeding on the signal now?" Anna asked softly. "Not feeding," I corrected gently. "Resonating." Alex gave a faint half-smile. "You're almost friends with it." I shrugged. "It didn't try to kill us?" "It was freezing us," Alex reminded me. There was no accusation in his voice, just memory. "It was losing energy," Anna said quietly. We fell silent again. Sometime near 3 in the morning, I woke automatically. Before, that had been when the call came. But this time, silence. No voice. No confirm reception. I stepped into the corridor. The station was calm. And then I understood. We no longer needed to confirm. By morning, communication with the mainland was restored. It happened almost casually. The static thinned. Then the dispatcher's voice came through, ordinary and human. "North 17, do you copy?" I looked at Alex. He nodded. "We copy," I replied. "Connection lost for 3 days. Everything all right?" We exchanged a glance. Anna allowed herself the faintest smile. "All stable," Alex answered evenly. "Storm has passed. Station operational." That was the truth, just not the whole truth. The mainland informed us that the evacuation aircraft could depart in a few days. The weather window would be brief. We had to prepare reports, and that was when the real difficulty began. What do we write? Alex opened the technical log. Temperature increase without fuel consumption change. Spontaneous restoration of communications. Anomalous stable background at 1,420 megahertz. "If I send this," he said quietly, "they'll declare us incompetent or unstable. Or they'll shut the station down," Anna added. I stared at the spectral display. The background on 1,420 was too clean, too stable, and within it, something was forming, subtle, almost invisible, as if microscopic pulses were emerging inside the steady carrier. "It's learning," I said quietly. "What?" Alex turned sharply. "The signal stability is improving. It's adapting." That evening, we gathered again in the radio room. No order, no call. But I started recording anyway, just in case. Anna stood by the window. "You know what's strange?" she said softly. "What?" "I don't feel the emptiness anymore. Antarctica always presses on you. But now, it feels like someone else is here." Alex said nothing. He was a man of instruments. But he felt it too. Late that night, we did not expect a voice, and none came. Instead, something else happened. The light in the radio room softened. Not brighter, softer. And then, in the ether, a short impulse appeared. Not a word, not a command, a structured signal. I immediately launched an analysis. The impulse repeated 3 times, identical intervals. I expanded the timescale. The pulses were perfectly periodic. "That's too regular," Alex said quietly. "Noise doesn't behave like that." I measured their duration. There were 2 types, short and long. My pulse quickened. "Binary," I whispered. Anna leaned closer. We began recording the sequence. Within minutes, a repeating block appeared. 8 pulses. Alex froze. A byte! I converted the pattern from binary to ASCII. The screen displayed a single word. Source. None of us spoke. This was no accident. The signal wasn't random. It was structured. It was deliberate. The pulses grew longer, more complex. We kept recording. After a while, a repeating structure emerged. That's code, I said. Can you decode it? Alex asked. If it's binary, yes. Anna sat beside us, barely breathing. The first translated fragments were fragmented. Source, stability, gratitude. Then another word appeared. Origin. We froze. The signal intensified. I magnified the data. And then I understood. This isn't just a message, I said quietly. It's an archive. A model began forming on the screen. Not text, an image. A mass of energy contained within a transparent crystalline matrix. Travel through space, impact, destruction of its power source, millions of years in dormancy. Earth's electromagnetic field like a blanket. And then, a sudden spike. Our antennas, our pulses, our signal. It had not simply awakened, it had been awakened. Anna closed her eyes. It was alone all that time. Alex exhaled slowly. And now? I looked at the spectrum. The signal was steady. Now it has a source, a pause, then from the ether. Not source, partner. The three of us looked at each other. It no longer used Harrison's voice. Now it was pure signal, and our minds translated it into meaning. Partner, Anna repeated softly. But with understanding came a new question. If it is stable, if it adapts, if it learns, what happens next? That night we did not say it aloud, but we all thought the same thing. Contact had occurred, not through ships, not through invasion, not through fear, through resonance, and we were the first humans to hear the answer. The next day the horizon sharpened. The aircraft confirmed departure. In 2 days we would be replaced. Anna sat by the window. If we leave, will it stay? I looked at the spectrum. The signal held steady. Yes, I said, as long as the station runs. Alex nodded slowly. Then maybe this isn't the end. He was right. It was the beginning. But that night, 1 day before the aircraft was due to arrive, the signal changed. The signal changed deep in the night. Not sharply, not alarmingly, but a new pattern appeared in the pulse structure. I woke without knowing why. The way I used to wake before, expecting the call. Habit does not disappear overnight. The radio room was dimly lit. The reel recorder turned quietly, almost soothing, but the line on the spectrum analyzer was no longer steady. The 1,420 megahertz band was widening, very slowly, as if something had begun to breathe more deeply. I zoomed in. The structure was becoming more complex. Victor? Anna's voice came softly from the doorway. She stood there wrapped in her sweater, hair tousled from sleep. You woke too? I asked without looking away from the screen. She nodded. It's too quiet, she said almost in a whisper. We both stared at the monitor. The pulses were no longer forming an archive. They were assembling into a directed sequence. That's not a message, Anna whispered, gripping the edge of the table. It's a calculation, I said. A few minutes later, Alex entered the room. He didn't ask anything. His eyes went straight to the screen. He froze. What is it doing? He asked. I didn't answer immediately, because in that moment the structure became clear. It was a schematic, a model of amplification. If we increased transmitter power, if we added phase synchronization with the ionosphere, if we activated the reserve circuits, the signal could be amplified hundreds of times. Alex slowly exhaled. It wants to go further. Anna tightened her grip on the table. Beyond the station, she asked. Beyond the planet, I said. The silence that followed felt heavy. If we amplified the signal, it would reach the ionosphere. And from there, space. Not as noise, as an organized wave, as an answer. It wants to be heard, Anna said softly. Or to be found, Alex replied. There was fear in his voice now, not of cold, of consequence. The signal shifted again. Translated fragments appeared on the screen. Window. Time. Amplification. I checked the calculations. In several hours, a rare ionospheric window would open. A coincidence of solar activity and magnetic alignment. If the signal was transmitted during that window, it would travel far. Very far. We can't just do this, Alex said firmly. He stood rigid, every word heavy with responsibility. Why not? Anna asked quietly. Because we don't know who will hear it. Silence. This was the first real fear since synchronization. Not fear of freezing, fear of what might follow. I stared at the spectrum. The signal was calm, structured. It wasn't demanding. It was offering. Then in the ether came, not call, answer. We froze. Answer to whom? Alex asked. Pause. Origin. My chest tightened. It wasn't calling into the unknown. It was responding to whoever had once sent it. You think it was sent? Anna whispered. I nodded slowly. Maybe it's part of a network. Alex paced the room. And if we amplify it, we activate a beacon. He looked at both of us. Are we ready for that? There was no time for philosophy. The ionospheric window was approaching. The signal stopped calculating. It waited. Then a single word appeared on the screen. Simple. Choice, Anna exhaled softly. It understands. Yes, I said. It's giving us the decision. We went to the dining area. No instruments, no screens. Just 3 people at the edge of the world. If we amplify it, Alex said, the consequences could be unpredictable. If we don't, Anna replied quietly, it will be alone again. I said nothing. I was thinking about Harrison. He had died near that place. He had become the first human imprint, the first bridge. And if we refuse, Anna said softly, what does that make us? No one answered. Back in the radio room, the air felt almost ceremonial. Alex placed his hand on the power control. His fingers trembled, barely visible. We decide now, he said. I placed my hand beside his. Anna stood by the window, looking out into the white emptiness. We already interfered, she said calmly. We're already part of this. A pause, I looked at Alex. Amplify. Power began to rise. Slowly. The antenna outside trembled slightly. The spectrum expanded, and at that moment, the ionospheric window opened. We saw it on the instruments. The upper atmosphere shifted. The signal was caught, and it went, not toward the mainland, upward. The ether fell silent, not empty, deep. The signal stabilized at a new level. Alex slowly removed his hand from the controls. That's it, he said quietly. Anna closed her eyes. Did it leave? Then in the spectrum, a new structure appeared. Short, faint. Connection established. We froze. With whom? Alex asked, his voice barely steady. Pause. Not now. The signal began to diminish, gradually returning to its previous level. The station remained warm. The diesel ran smoothly. The antenna stood still. Everything looked normal. Too normal. We sat in silence, and for the first time, we were not afraid, because now we understood. Contact is not invasion, it is consent. Several hours later, an aircraft appeared on the horizon, and the world became human again. But we knew the ether would never be the same. The aircraft appeared first as a dark speck in the white air, not as a sound, as movement. Antarctica always shows you something before it lets you hear it. The 3 of us stood by the radio room window. No one spoke. The signal at 1,420 megahertz held steady, calm even. No commands, no calculations, no requests, like a heart that had found its rhythm. "Do you think it's still here?" Anna asked quietly, without taking her eyes off the horizon. I glanced at the spectrum display. "Yes," I said. Alex gave a small nod. "It just doesn't need to demand anything anymore." The aircraft circled the station, began its descent. We switched on the landing lights. Everything looked ordinary. That was the strangest part. While we waited, I checked the night's recording one last time. At the moment where our signal had risen into the ionosphere, there was a new marker, very faint, almost at the edge of detection. I zoomed in, and I saw it. A reply, not ours, incoming, very distant, very thin, too weak to resolve its structure. But it was there. Anna stepped closer behind me. "Is that?" she began. "Yes," I answered softly. Alex stared at the screen without blinking. "So it really isn't alone." A pause. "And now," Anna added quietly, "neither are we." The aircraft touched down. Snow burst upward in a white cloud. The airlock opened. Cold air rushed inside again, but it no longer felt hostile. It was simply cold. Two replacement crew members greeted us. Ordinary faces, ordinary questions, ordinary reports. "How's communications?" the pilot asked. "Stable," Alex replied evenly. "And the weather?" "The window closes in a couple of hours." Everything sounded routine, as if the world had not shifted. We handed over the station according to protocol, temperature logs, fuel reserves, antenna status. When we reached the section labeled Anomalies, Alex paused. He looked at me, then at Anna, and closed the journal. "No significant deviations," he said. It was not a lie. It was a choice. Before leaving, I returned to the radio room alone. I sat down, put on the headphones. The background was steady. Calm, I spoke softly into the microphone. "North acknowledges reception." Not because I had to, because I wanted to. There was a pause. Then on the spectrum, a short structure appeared. "Confirmed." I smiled. "Thank you," I said, this time without fear. When we climbed into the aircraft, the station grew smaller beneath us. 3 modules. The mast. Tracks in the snow. Antarctica returned to white emptiness. But now that emptiness no longer felt lifeless. It felt like space. The cockpit was cramped. The engines hummed steadily. Alex stared out the window. "If they detect the reply," he said quietly, "they'll call it noise," I answered. "Or they won't," Anna said. A pause. "Should we have reported it?" Alex asked. I thought about Harrison, his photograph, the way his voice became a bridge. "Contact doesn't begin with a report," I said. "It begins with understanding." Hours later, the station disappeared beyond the horizon. Communication with North 17 transferred to the new crew. We no longer heard the background tone, but I knew it was there. A month passed. The reports were accepted without serious questions. Some of the data from 1,420 megahertz was forwarded to a research center. There was no response. Not yet. Then one evening, I opened an open radio observation archive and saw a short note. "An anomalously stable narrowband signal detected in the 1,420 megahertz range. Source, Antarctic region. Analysis ongoing." I closed the screen and smiled. It hadn't disappeared. It had expanded, and somewhere far beyond the atmosphere, perhaps another structure of energy received the reply. Not a call, an answer. Sometimes humanity waits for invasion, lights in the sky, ships, signals with translated text, but sometimes contact is silence, in which someone learns to breathe with us. We came to Antarctica to measure noise, and found a voice. If one night, under a clear sky, a radio telescope catches a signal that is too steady, too structured, it may not be a beginning, but a continuation. and somewhere on 1420 megahertz, a faint background still hums. Not a command, not a request. Presence. Dear friends, if you enjoy the stories on our channel, please consider subscribing. Leave a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our upcoming stories and new releases. Your support truly means a lot and helps the channel grow and continue creating. Thank you very much for watching.